Kim, y'all come on up a little closer. And Jake and Bryce, y'all may want to come in a little closer. The judge doing, Miss Ravon, y'all come up a little closer here.
Where you want
So,
to?
yeah, right there.
Right there?
Spot. We got it. Judge Dorsey, you want to get on this side? Okay. Okay. I want you to be safe here. You're right here. Here we got Ravon and Kim. Okay. Is everyone ready? Okay. Good morning. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Jake Brown, Attorney Bryce Timmons. We have the honor of representing the family of Gershun Freeman, who, as you all know, were killed in the Shelby County detention facility. And the video was released last week. This is the first time that we've had an opportunity publicly with these great lawyers who are my co-counsels to break down the video for you. And more importantly, the first time publicly you will hear from his mother and father, Kim Freeman, his father, George Burke, his wife, Nicole Freeman, and their family about, yet again, another video of an unarmed black man being killed by law enforcement here in Shelby County, Tennessee. What is going on in Memphis is what people around America are asking. And we are so grateful to be joined by Tyre Nichols' mother and father, Miss Rovine Wells and Mr. Rodney Wells, who will also have statements to make along with the parents of Gershun Freeman, because as you all know, they've had to go through similar experiences of speaking to the media after they saw a horrific video of their loved one being killed in just the most unbelievable way. Tyre Nichols' tragic video shocked America for many reasons. And they want to let Gershun Freeman's family know that they more than anybody feel their pain and hopefully draw America's attention to see what happened to Gershun and that both of their sons' lives mattered. We also have my co-counsels with Tyre Nichols' family, the learned judge who's retired, Ernestine Doyce, who's present here with us, Kareem Ali, and we have Vicki Terry, who's the executive director of the NAACP. So I will make one or two brief remarks, and then I'm going to have Attorney Jake Brown come before you and talk about that video. And then we're so grateful to have Attorney Bryce Timmons, who has been a pioneer in this litigation here in Tennessee, with making sure that the civil rights of citizens, whether they're outside the county jail or inside the county jail, have their constitutional rights protected. And he's going to talk a little bit about the history here in Shelby County and why he's not surprised by what happened on that video. But first, let me just say these things, and then finally, you will hear from the parents, all four of them together, which I think is quite important for America to see. I don't know what is happening in America where law enforcement feels that they can treat mental health issues like criminal issues, especially if they are marginalized people of color, especially if they are black men. Mr. Ali and I were just in Richmond, Tennessee yesterday, Richmond, Virginia yesterday with the family of Ivor Otian. And that young man was having a mental health crisis, Kim, and the video hasn't been released yet, but it was eerily shocking, as that of Tyre and that of Gershun and that of George Floyd, because he was handcuffed and leg irons, and for whatever reason they put a knee on his neck and they had him held down where they literally smothered him to death after 11 minutes. And so when you look at this video of Gershun and you think about that video that's going to be released, it just boggles your mind to say, why is law enforcement treating a black person who's having a mental health crisis with the death sentence? Because at some point, Jake, that's all you can conclude.
Yes, sir.
That they're making the critical factor whether somebody lives or dies who's having a mental health crisis be relevant to the color of their skin. And that's not right. We are better than this, America. We have to treat mental health like a medical condition, not like a criminal matter. And it starts here in Shelby County with Gershun Freeman, and it'll go to Richmond, Virginia, and it'll go to Houston, Texas with Pamela Turner, who was a black woman having a mental health crisis who ended up getting a death sentence. It's far too many people who need a helping hand from law enforcement, but they get brutality. They get the death sentence. They get broken-hearted parents. Well, today we're going to start to ring the alarm in America that mental health crisis should not mean the death sentence if the color of your skin is black. And with that, I'm going to call an incredible young civil rights lawyer who is really helping usher in the new generation of civil rights lawyers, not just in Tennessee, but in America, Attorney Jake Brown, to talk about what happened on that video. Jake.
Thank you, Attorney Crump, and thank you all for showing up today. I want to say first how proud we are to be a part of this excellent, extremely well-qualified legal team, and even more importantly, how proud all of us on that team are to represent the Freeman family. With both Tyre Nichols and Gershun Freeman, the world saw what I think we can all agree is some of the worst of Memphis in the actions of the Memphis Police Department, and now in Mr. Freeman's case, the actions of the Shelby County Sheriff. Thankfully, we have these families, strong, courageous people,
yes,
to balance that out with some of the best of Memphis, and we are proud to stand here with them. We talked about the video the last press conference we had before it was released. Now the world has been able to see what we saw, see what actually happened to Gershun Freeman after the officers opened his cell door that they did not need to open. Mr. Freeman ran out and he was subjected to a gauntlet of punches, kicks. He was stricken with implements ranging from handcuffs to heavy rings of jail keys. He was hit with canisters of chemical irritant in addition to being sprayed with chemical irritant. It was not the way that our community, the people we put in place to watch over the detainees in the jail, should allow things to operate, not by any means. I want to talk briefly to turn back to Tyre Nichols just for a moment, because in the aftermath of that case, we heard a lot about the Memphis model and how prompt the city administration dealt with the officers, dealt administratively with the officers who were involved in that murder. But that calling it the Memphis model, giving recognition to Chief Davis for the swift action, was not empty praise. It was setting a bar. That has become the new standard. We saw what is possible when people in leadership positions take charge or take charges of law enforcement misconduct seriously. And unfortunately, it is the opposite of what we are seeing now from Sheriff Floyd Bonner, who has publicly announced that he is taking no further administrative action against the officers involved on that video. Those officers that you see beating this young man with handcuffs, Floyd Bonner has said he will take no administrative action against them until the criminal investigation is complete. What that means is that until the criminal investigation is complete, those deputies that we all watched beat this young man, this helpless young man on the ground with handcuffs worn around their fists like brass knuckles, those deputies are still, as we speak, in charge of detainees down at the Shelby County Jail. That is unacceptable, it's a disgrace, and we need to see Sheriff Bonner start taking the misconduct of his officers seriously, because we all saw it for ourselves.
Thank you, Jake. And now we will hear from Attorney Bryce Timmons, the other great cornerstone of this legal team, who's not only going to share his thoughts of the video, but also the institutional history that he has been working to change at the Shelby County Jail for years now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce.
A little chillier out here than I expected today. And so I want to thank you all for bearing with us. But it's not as cold. It's not as cold out here as it was on that concrete jail floor when Gershun Freeman was stripped naked and beaten to death in the cold. We now know that the reason that Gershun Freeman was naked was because he was under mental health observation. He was in a suicide watch cell because he was having a mental health crisis.
Exactly.
And when you have a mental health crisis in the Shelby County Jail, for what they claim is your own safety, they leave you naked, alone in a cell. You're supposed to be watched by medical personnel. You're supposed to be seen by nurses, by counselors, by the kind of people that can help intervene in a mental health crisis and de-escalate problems. But there were none to be found. And the entire video, until the very end, until after he is dead on the ground, you do not see one medical professional. Instead, you see droves of guards, including people from the directors or the detention response team, who are the most notorious guards in the facility for their violence. Why are these people even given access to these two people who are in mental health crisis? If Gershun Freeman was behaving erratically, as Sheriff Bonner has said in that same statement where he said that he wasn't going to take any administrative action against these officers, he said that the video was out of context and that we didn't see the erratic behavior that led to this. Well, if he was behaving erratically, why did they open the cell door with the guard having a can of pepper spray in his hand ready to use it, instead of calling for medical professionals? Our jail has become the default mental health facility in Memphis. We don't have enough mental health beds in Shelby County in any facility, publicly owned or privately operated. We just don't have them. So what do? We bring people who are experiencing mental health crisis to this facility, and we lock them up and treat them as not merely criminals, but dangerous criminals. And we expose them to risk of violence. And as we sit here today, those same guards, as Jake said, those same guards are watching over those same people experiencing mental health crises in the Shelby County Jail today. That is unacceptable. And it has to stop somewhere. And so for all of us gathered here today, we say it stops here. Stops here, stops now.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you very much. And it was Bryce and Jake who said, just like with Tyre Nichols in the Scorpion unit, it was foreseeable that somebody was going to be killed. They educated me based on all the past misgivings in Shelby County Detention Facility, that it was foreseeable that somebody was going to be killed. And so with our legal teams working together, we want to expose the truth. So we hopefully can prevent it, like you said, it can stop here. At this time, we think this is an incredibly important moment, not only for their families, but for the community and for the country, to see how nobody is an island, as Judge Dorr said. We all are dependent on each other to get through tough times. And so, y'all heard us before when we were Tyre Nichols' family and parents say, justice for Tyre Nichols. And y'all heard us when we were Gershun Freeman's parents and family say, justice for Gershun Freeman. But today, we get to say in unison for both of these lives that were taken from this earth far too soon. Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
And justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
And justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
We're going to have Tyre Nichols' parents, Miss Rovine Wells and Mr. Rodney Wells, come, and we're going to have Gershun Freeman's parents, Miss Kim Freeman and George Burke, come, and they're going to address you as they see fit to show that they're standing in support of one another. I give you these strong families who are leading the way through their grief to fight for justice.
Hi, I'm Rovine Wells. Tyre Nichols was our son. I'm here today to give support to this lady. She also lost her son in a brutal way, and she lost her only son. So I could just imagine what she's going through, because I know what I'm going through. I have 3 other children that I can depend on, but this woman right here, she lost her only son. Could y'all just imagine her only son, her only child, to police violence? Yesterday, I brought my son home, and it was the worst day of my life, because I had to bring my son home in an urn yesterday, and he didn't. And so I could just imagine what she's going through right now. And all I'm here for is just support, just to stand with her, because no mother, regardless to what, should have to bury their child as we have. So, Mama, speak.
I'm Kimberly Freeman. I'm Gershun's mother. I want justice for my son, but I also want to know who are the people that murdered my son. They have blood on their hand. They go home every night to their family.
Right.
Whereas for me and my granddaughter, we have to see my son, her father, in a box. In a box. We didn't play in this. My son had a lot of dreams, a lot of admiration. He cared for people in general. And for the people to murder my son in this hellhole, we want answers. Bring those people to the front of the courthouse. We want to see them. Justice.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Gershun Freeman.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Justice for Tyre Nichols.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burke is gonna say something, and then Mr. Wells.
Yeah, I'm George Burke, the father of Gershun Freeman, and I would like to see all them officers punished, brought to justice. Y'all seen the tape just as well as we did, how they beat my baby, and them blonde-haired girls hit them all upside the head with them pepper spray cans. Y'all seen it just like we seen it. And Bonner talking about they didn't do nothing wrong. Hold them folks accountable. Lee Harris hold Bonner accountable for his boys.
Thank you, Mr. Burke, for speaking truth to power. Mr. Wells?
I just wanted to say that we're here in support of the Gershun Freeman family, and we appreciate all the support that we have had for our family. So, justice for Tyre and justice for Gershun Freeman's family.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Nicole, you okay? Nicole, okay? Okay. At this time, the attorney Brown, Attorney Timmons, Attorney Doss, and any of our legal team will try to take some of your questions.
You've been calling on the Department of Justice to take over this investigation. Where does that stand? And you also called on the UN to intervene in the case of Mr. Nichols. Where does that stand?
Well, I know, and Jake and you and Bryce can kind of make your way. I know that the Department of Justice, they have opened their investigation into Tyre Nichols. They are still deliberating about Gershun Freeman, but I believe what happened in Virginia, it gives even more reason for them to strongly to look at the civil rights violations against people who are suffering from mental health issues and having mental health crisis, especially if they're people of color and especially black men. And I believe Christian Clark of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice will have to think a little harder about opening up this investigation. And I get it. I know they got so many investigations that are going on because unfortunately we just keep seeing this brutal force used against unarmed people of color all across America, that they're having to work twice as hard. But they have been doing unprecedented, courageous acts to make sure that the constitutional rights of all citizens are being protected. And we saw this administration, this Merrick Garland Justice Department prosecute the officers who killed George Floyd. They prosecuted the killers of Ahmaud Arbery, and they're prosecuting the killers of Breonna Taylor. And I know they're prosecuting the killers of Tyre Nichols. And so we believe that there's a precedent there that they are going to look into Gershun Freeman's case. And as it relates to the United Nations with Tyre Nichols, they have opened up an urgent appeal into the killing of Tyre Nichols. And so I know in Switzerland they'll be putting out statements about that.
Attorney Crump,
the deputies who killed Mr. Freeman. District Attorney Mulroy has referred this matter to Glenn Funk's office, the Nashville-Davidson County prosecutor, as an independent entity to investigate and potentially prosecute that case. We have been in extensive communications with that office. We are leaving them to make the decision that they will, and that's a process that we're not directly privy to, but we can say that they have been extremely professional and responsive and considerate of the Freeman family, and we're confident that they're going to make the right decision.
And I would say this one thing about District Attorney Glenn Funk. We saw him come in Memphis when Alvin Motley was killed unjustly, and he prosecuted that case to the full extent of the law, giving it dignity and respect to that unarmed black man who was killed by a Kroger security guard. So we have reason to believe that he's going to continue to be transparent with our officers and try to make sure that there's equal justice for Gershun Freeman. That's what we're fighting for, equal justice. We only want what would have happened if that was your child in that jail, having a mental health crisis, to be the same thing that is given to Gershun's family.
I have a question, Ben, for you. I'm a nurse and I used to work at 201. I just wanted to know, has anyone looked into the checks on Gershun Freeman before this situation occurred? I know for sure that the jail has a policy that all inmates on a health floor with a mental health condition has to have 10-minute checks.
I'm going to defer to Attorney Bryce Timmons. That's an excellent question, by the way.
So that is a great question. I've been looking into this issue in the Shelby County Jail for a long time, not just in this case, but in others. And it is the considered opinion of my team that Shelby County does not have enough mental health personnel on staff through WellPath, the medical contractor, to make sure that those checks happen, to adequately intervene when somebody decompensates, when somebody does experience a mental health crisis, and that they simply, frankly, don't want to spend the money on it. Who is the least able to advocate for themselves population in the world? It is the community of people with severe mental health issues. They are the least able to advocate for themselves of anybody in the world. And when you put them in an incarceral setting, you put them inside of a jail, there is no way that they can realistically, adequately advocate to get the help that they need. You cannot do that. It is a responsibility of the sheriff to make sure that we have those services available in this jail. And we simply don't, because Shelby County has chosen not to spend the money to pay those people.
Let me say one thing, and Paula, again, that was an excellent question. It goes to these issues of how we treat people with mental health issues. Are we going to try to make it a priority to say that everybody knows somebody in their family who has mental health issues? Well, if you love your family, then make sure you vote for people who are going to make this an issue. Whether it's the sheriff, the mayor, people have to understand that mental health is real. Yeah, and Judge Dorsey will make a brief comment about that, then we'll take one or two more.
And I just want to speak on mental health issues. It is a problem all over this country, and I've been on national boards for mental health professionals. We must require that mental health is what I call given the equal dignity rule. Let it be as dignified as you having high blood pressure or cancer or arthritis, but let it have the same kinds of health assignments. You got limits on how many days you can, how much mental health pay you can get. So require that of your leadership across this country, to give mental health the same dignity that you would give prostate cancer or breast cancer or anything, but let it allow the people to also keep their dignity. So when you fail to do that, you're failing us. You're really failing the country.
Thank you so much, Judge Doris.
Let me hop in and say one thing on the back of that. There has been a court-appointed inspector in the Shelby County Jail rendering reports for a couple of years now as a result of the litigation related to COVID-19. And those reports have revealed a troubling lack of mental health services. For example, did you know that the Shelby County Jail does not employ one psychologist? Not one. They have a psychiatrist and a part-time psychiatrist. And certainly they have dedicated social workers in the facility, but there are not sufficient mental health resources, and all you need to do is go look at the reports of that independent inspector to see what's missing. Somewhere between 15 and 20% of the people incarcerated at the Shelby County Jail at any given time have an identified mental health condition. An identified mental health condition.